Hey, so we're back with another Wrestler Ramble today, and we're going to be talking about someone who I'm going to sound a bit underqualified to talk about, I feel, but someone I'm a big fan of every time I've seen him, and someone who I think's honestly very interesting. We're going to be talking about today a New Japan World Heavyweight Champion on IWGP Heavyweight Champion, obviously, Yota Tsuji. Obviously, Yota Tsuji is very much a hot topic, obviously, myself as an AEW fan, not long after Forbidden Door. Now, straight up, the amount I've seen of Yota Tsuji isn't the most. I'll say that straight up. It's not the most. I've not seen a lot matches of Yota Tsuji, but every time I've seen Yota Tsuji, I think he's great. I think there's something about the guy. I think he's got it. And there's a very few things, very few ways to describe that. But I think I don't want to say aura, because that's very much a cop-out, but you know what I mean? It is very much like that. And I think the first time I ever watched Yota Tsuji was at Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year, Tanahashi's retirement, where he had that incredible match versus Takeshi that I don't think gets spoken about a lot. I think that match is absolutely stellar. Obviously, Takeshita plays a big part in that for me. We all know how much I love Konosuke Takeshita. If you don't, I think he's the fucking best male wrestler in the world. Like, that's how high level. And I think Tsuji obviously is a great way, great guy to, pair with him and, obviously make look great, because it's hard to have a bad match with Takeshita. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say every Yota Tsuji match I've seen is perfect. Obviously, I've watched the matches with him and Andrade, which I did enjoy. We did match rambles on them, but I stand by the comments of, I just want them to do it again and just let Andrade loose. I feel like that's the problem, and I don't know if that's because of Tsuji or Andrade, but point is, I think Tsuji's special. I do. And I'm not in terms of like the, oh my god, this is a once-in-a-lifetime performer. No. I think Yota Tsuji is, at least from my perspective as well, I think Yota Tsuji is a guy that New Japan needs more than they realise. Now, I think that's very hard to kind of state, so allow me to explain. I feel like with Yota Tsuji, obviously New Japan after Tanahashi, even before Tanahashi retired, realistically after, obviously a lot of the stars left, you look at Ospreay, Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., and even now with Takahashi, even as much as I don't like Evil's obviously left. That was a big star for them in Japan. Gabe Kidd, if you want to count that, and obviously Clark Connors, David Finlay, they were seen as kind of big deals. They lost a lot. They did lose a lot of talent, and I think they did struggle to find their next guy. And I still think they're in like that period where, okay, we're getting through together, but no one stands out. I think the only one that does to me is Tsuji. And I think Tsuji has that attitude. I think he has that presence about him, that aura, again, to really make that work. In ring, it's not incredible, but it's really high level. And I want to go more into that in terms of what I think of him in ring. I think the only other guys you could really pair him with at the minute, in terms of right now, obviously they give the belt to Newman very early on, but they stripped him again. There's a lot of stuff, really. There's not really many I can think of, again, admittedly from my knowledge. But I think Tsuji, again, just to talk about the in-ring stuff now, I think Tsuji's a great shadow guy, and he reminds me of, ironically enough, of John Cena. And I that's a wild accusation, and I really want to get more into that. I think you put Tsuji with anyone, his match is going to depend on who he's with. And I think that definitely has some, obviously, not the biggest amount of, like, this is a definite, like, again, I think Andrade is absolutely incredible, La Sombra, but he doesn't have the best match with Andrade. They're solid, but they're not the best. And I think that's the only thing where it limits him is the speed. But I think Tsuji can work with anyone. I think he's a great mirror wrestler. I really do. And again, I think Cena is. I think that's the way I describe John Cena. Again, you give him Takeshita, it's going to be a banger. You give him Okada, Ospreay, all these people, it's going to be stellar. And I think, for me, I think that's where Tsuji kind of revels, because I think when you look back at Cena specifically, not to sidetrack it a lot, but Cena works as a face of a company. Obviously, one, because he's so family friendly, etc., etc. But Yota Tsuji would relish in the mirror aspect because he gets the other people over, and he really works with other people. And I think that's what really helps Cena, and I think that's what will help Tsuji if they push it that way. Now, obviously, the big thing with Yota Tsuji is what his attitude, frankly, with the AEW and New Japan deal, and how their partnership relishes. You've seen a lot of discourse with him and Ospreay talking about it and stuff. I don't think he's wrong. I think he's very much correct. Obviously, you know, New Japan doesn't benefit from the AEW partnership as much as AEW benefits from the New Japan partnership. That's very much the thing. Don't get me wrong, I think Yota Tsuji should definitely be on the Forbidden Door card. I think the IWGP should be on the new Forbidden Door card. I think that's silly. But I love it. Honestly, frankly, even as an AEW fan, I love the attitude. I think that adds so much, like, oomph to it, you know what I mean? Like, Yota Tsuji having this arrogance, this pure disdain, you know, this frankly stuck-up attitude of like, no, New Japan's the peak. I hold this company to the highest degree. You're not helping us. Am I fucking gonna help you? I think that's an absolutely stellar mindset. I think the look of his face, like, it sounds stupid. I think very few wrestlers have that look to pull off both. Yota Tsuji does. There's this one picture where he has the belts. I've got it, and it's like he looks like he's snarling. But you can tell he's snarling at anyone else, but not, obviously, the New Japans. And it's like, well, New Japan as a whole. And it's like, I love that he's standing, he is planting the flag, he's holding the flag, frankly, to be like, this is my company. I'm not going to fucking compromise this shit. And Sabre Jr. has that aspect and that attitude too. But frankly, I think it hits a lot harder, especially at this time's aspect, post-Tanahashi. And obviously, you know, in the era, and frankly, from a Japanese man. Like, I think that definitely has that, you know, extra added value to it. I just think there's something there with Tsuji. I think he has that. For me, I love AEW, I love CML, I love a lot of wrestling companies. I do, clearly. I don't shut up about the bastard sport. But I do rank the New Japan in terms of the prestige of that belt the highest. I do. I think that frankly, that small little video package they play with the video, with all the champs and stuff, how they present everything in terms of that, and obviously, you know, New Japan as a whole, it really adds prestige. And I love AEW again. I think AEW has the best belt and the best roster, but I think the prestige of that New Japan belt is the best. And I just think how Tsuji portrays that in himself, it really sells it. It really adds a lot to me. I think it's the way it should be, frankly. I think that's, for me, that's how I'd want it. That snotty, that arrogance, not cocky, but just more, you, like, I'm not compromising shit, I'm the man. And, like, I love it. I love that, the attitude again, the facials really express that. And overall, as a wrestler, I really like Yota Tsuji. Like I say, I think he's got some great matches. I think he's a great, obviously, you know, a mirror wrestler, like I say. For me, I don't know if this whole thing with the attitude is a work or a shoot. I don't care. I think the way it's been portrayed, I love it. I love it. Even if it is a work or a shoot, I don't care. I think if that's how it genuinely feels, completely fucking justified. If that's a work, it's completely great. No problem either way. Don't get me wrong, he has been on Forbidden Door before, but I'd like to see him on Forbidden Door. I think you could run an angle with that. You know, you could obviously do, like, not an invasion type, but, you know, someone from AEW. Kind of similar to what they did with the Techless stuff with Stardom in the Forbidden Door. You could kind of do that for Tsuji and then build it up for Wrestle Dynasty at the start of the year next year, where you could go, okay, you know, bring me anyone from AEW, you know, and you could bring him, I don't know, fucking Ospreay or whoever. Or fucking Kyle Fletcher. Give me Kyle Fletcher versus Yota Tsuji. That's a match I want. But I just like this guy in this situation where the fans clearly echo his sentiment. I would really like I like the fact that the champ is very much, okay, I stand by and say what they all think. I just think that's so representative. I think that's very important. And I think that's great. I can't really overstate that enough. I think it's absolutely great. I just think he's got this great look. I think he's got this great presence. I just think he's the guy. I don't know if he's your future 100%, we're going to back Tsuji till the day he retires guy. I don't think he's the next Tanner or anything. But I think out of all the guys now in New Japan, you know, let's not include Sabre Jr. because I'm a big Sabre Jr. fan. I think he's the guy where I'm like, that's the guy who I associate with New Japan. It really is. Like, Newman's great, but I don't think Newman's a guy who stays there for his entire career. I'd love him to, but I just don't think he does. Just, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, frankly, New Japan is going to want more Japanese talent more than Gaijins. Gaijins are cool, but they want that Japanese. It's a Japanese company. It makes sense. And it's like, you know, after Tana, after Okada losing was a big one, obviously. And then that's not including Jay White and Ospreay and all these other wrestlers. I just think, yeah, just fuck it. Like, I don't know if this, because New Japan, to me, obviously goes off a Three Musketeers rule. The Tanahashi era was obviously Tana, Shinsuke, and in my opinion, it was Shibata, maybe replaced by Okada eventually. I just feel like at this point, it was, I don't know. I just think I feel like I'm relaying the same points about Tsuji here, that I just like his attitude, even though it's a bit arrogant. I like him in ring, I just don't think he's excellent. I just think there's a lot there. And I think, you know what, frankly, I don't think there's a lot of wrestlers to me out there now that are as interesting as Yota Tsuji. I don't. And I like just how he's got this... I just like how he presents himself. I like how the company presents him. I just think he's cool. You give me a... and again, that... For me, I think New Japan really... I think you can tell New Japan really wanted Takeshita, because I feel like if you had the pair of them, it really works. But obviously, I like how they really played into that with Tsuji at Wrestle Kingdom this year. Obviously my introduction where, the fans weren't all in on Takeshita, so they had a guy like Tsuji who portrays this. I don't know if he portrayed this beforehand, but he unified the belts. He got the old IWGP belt back, and that's, to me, a fucking huge deal. And it's I just think Tsuji does a lot right. I think, again, he's not perfect. He's not the best wrestler in the world or anything, which, frankly, how he's acted in New Japan and, as the IWGP World Champion, I think, that should kind of be part of the course. He should be, not better in ring, but, high level. I just think he's a high level. I think he's a great mirror, but I don't think he's a dictator or anything in terms of in ring. I just feel like that's his only flaw for me. I think that's his only flaw. I don't think he's like this insane once-in-a-lifetime wrestler. I just think he's a very much a really welcome addition, someone I always look forward to seeing, or someone I always like to keep up with. And I just think the guy's great. I do. I'm happy he's got the belt again. I hope this leads to more stuff. But in terms of New Japan, frankly, let me know if I'm missing someone out. But I think that's your main guy, for at least now anyway. I just think he's great. And he makes stuff interesting to me, and that's what I think a company like New Japan needs. And obviously, again, with the character stuff, but I just think there's just something there, and I have just real affinity to Yota Tsuji. I think he's brilliant, and frankly, I don't see a lot wrong with him. Personal bias, I don't care. I think the guy's great. I think he's definitely worthy to be the New Japan belt champion, and I think he's really, really, really fun to watch. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Yota Tsuji, obviously the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Let me know what you think of Yota Tsuji. What do you think of his whole attitude and stuff? Because I'm a fan, obviously, but I know he's a very controversial figure, so to speak. So let me know what you think of Yota below.